All right, so with our beautiful Mr. Teddy, ready? We'll do a couple little find it's just to warm up. He's gonna get better at these. He's like, where'd the bad boy go? Nice. So Teddy, come. Yes, good job. What a smart boy. Ready? Find it. So we're just gonna warm up a little bit with some of these name recognition moments and some recalls. Teddy, come. Yes, what a good boy. So just a couple good pointers for recall. I would recommend practice a lot of it in the home and in your yard. Even if, let's say, I didn't get to say the puppy's name and the recall word, I still want to feed him for coming into my space. So I'm going to send him away again with a little find it. Teddy, come. Yes. We do want to be careful since he is such a growing boy, since he's going to be a large breed / giant breed or whatever, I would highly recommend to be careful as to how intense he's doing certain things and the traction in your home. So a lot of giant breeds and even smaller types of dogs too can become injured because of the lack of traction inside the home. Obviously, right now we've been having a lot of winter wonderland, so we've been having a lot of snow and ice. This doesn't mean your puppy can't do fun things and play and do their usual madness, but I would highly, oh, we dropped it. I would highly recommend that you gauge how intense the play or exploration might be. A lot of times, this doesn't mean that your puppy can't explore the world and go at their rate, but a lot of times people think puppies have a lot of energy, so we need to expend a lot of physical energy through high intensity play like fetch, or for example, a lot of walks that are kind of longer in duration. I would be very careful as to how long and for sort of what type of intensity we're building in for this boy. So since his bones and ligaments and joints will not be fully done sort of growing and fusing till he's around 2.5, give or take, you may find that if we go too hard at times, we might cause more damage for his growing body than what we'd like for down the road. So make sure for in the home, if you are playing with him, it's in an area that you have carpet. If you don't have carpet down because he's still doing some house training practice, I understand the concept there behind avoiding the carpeting getting soiled on. But for a lot of puppies, if they slip and slide on tile, hardwood, they can start to become a little bit more nervous on different surfaces. But then also, if he does injure himself, that can cause some problem from down the road for behavioral trouble too. So remember, a lot of troubles that are stemming from aggression or reactivity stem from pain or an ailment. So about almost 80% of cases start from there. So if we can avoid pain or injuries in babies, then of course that means that they're much less likely to run into some trouble. If they're not feeling good, they're probably gonna have a shorter fuse, just like with us. So, and the only way your babe can tell you that they're not feeling well is sometimes through behavior change or movement change. For right now, his gait is looking pretty good. But as he's getting, butt high versus, his chest might be a little lower, there can be moments where he's applying more pressure in one area versus another. So just things to think about when you're dealing with a developing puppy in general. So back to the handsome guy, we're going to do a little bit of maybe some weights with coming when called, and we'll see how he's doing. He's growing like a weed though, so I had to throw in that little safety tip for body. So you're going to tell him to wait. I might take a step or two if he can handle it. And then, for example, I might go, Teddy, come, and work that little recall. So he's doing a real nice job. So I know I've been kind of mentioning like the confidence building class. That could be another great one for a lot of these puppies, because it could be, again, a venue for novelty. If we're getting jumping, remember this is the only way your puppy can say, I'm confused, or why is this not working? I was sitting on my caboose. So tell him to wait, give him a little moment, and then Teddy, come. So remember that if your babe is, again, giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. So I would highly recommend in sort of figure out why behavior might be happening in the first place. So for a hands, oh my gosh, chewing is still optional. So it's hard to run, chew, and trot. I'm sorry, chewing and walking is hard. There we go, he got it up. Poor Mr. T. Ready? So we'll do a little kissy noise, a little check-in. So we'll try again with one of those little weights when we're getting to our little sit position. Tell our beauty to wait. Give them just a couple seconds here. And then again, as you're finding he's probably doing much better with this at home, oh, he says distractions, you may find that you can increase your time frame. You might be able to increase your distance. Ready, sit. But if your puppy is really not doing so well, nice. I'm going to tell him again. Once I'm going to give him a little tidbit so he's not too frustrated. Until he's like stuck in his jowl. That's embarrassing. We're going to tell him to wait, give him a second or two, and then Teddy come. Nice. So with these weights, again, this is where your gorgeous guy or gal, depending on who you're practicing with at home, is your puppy or your dog is going to be sitting or downing. They're waiting for a few moments and you call them to you. Ready? But back to that jumping. So if you're getting a lot of jumping or mouthiness, excuse me, I know I mentioned with Mr. S earlier and also with Mr. B, is for a lot of teenage dogs, when they get really jazzed or overwhelmed, they may start to do some jumping or some mouthing behavior. So I would gauge how sort of tired is my puppy. And if they're feeling, oh, good check-in, sir. If they're feeling really tired, they may be even more rambunctious. And this is where that whole concept with exercise is some folks would be like, he might be sort of so much energy, let's work him more. Oh, he says, I want my toys. So maybe we'll do a little bit with play, but also remember that play should be soft enough where it's going to be working with his body, not against it. So this is a flirt pole. I know some of the other boys had used this prior. So I might go, you ready? He's like, yes, I was born ready. So I'm going to see all four on the floor, or a sitting position could be fine. I'm going to say, go get it. And now my toy comes alive and we can go chase it. So I don't want to make this so hard or so challenging for him physically that he could either hurt himself or get frustrated. So I want him to, when he catches the critter, it might then come alive if he's interested in having it move again. But we want to make sure that we're doing nice, big, swooshing motions. So for him, if I go to suddenly stop, he might then sort of stop suddenly too, and he could hurt himself because he is kind of like a big, clumsy moose. He's quite adorable. But we want to make sure that the play is conducive to the way he's moving at this age group. So with flirt poles, you want to make sure you always have good traction. So that's where, like right here where we got the rubber flooring, nice job, could be a much better venue. He's like, oh, do we eat the stick too? But if you're practicing this at home, I'd recommend outside if it's not slippery or icy with the snow that we've got right now. It seems to be melting at the time, but we still have so much of it. But you could also play this in an environment where you have carpet. He is going to be a gigantic boy, so you may only get away with this for a little bit in the beginning, but you'll see that again. Oh, he says, I found a snack. Hold on. So you'll see he is awkward when he's frolicking. So this is where I do want to make sure the play is still soft enough for his body to handle it. He says, these leashes look delicious. So I might go right there. Yes, good check-in. He's maybe a little unsure, but the water dish is right over there. So maybe he's looking for a drink as well. But back to play, if you're doing some practice with him, make sure that, again, the play is not too rowdy. Not just because, again, we can't have the puppy get excited, but because we want to make sure that when he gets a little jazzed, he's not going to hurt himself too. Good job. So, but with the flirt pole play, if he does tend to like it, this is a brand that I got off of Amazon. It's called Squishy Face Studio. I want to see if I can grab real quick just 2 more toys for him and see if he wants to try those. So, sorry, I'm out of camera shot again. But for some of the babes, sometimes things that you guys can play together with is a much better option than, for example, a toy he just kind of plays and chews by himself, which is still acceptable. Ready? So, but sometimes you can get your puppy to try something novel. Maybe it might feel nice on their gums. So like he's like, I don't know how I feel about this one. Oh, I think he finally found the water bowl. There we go. He's on to me. So puller rings or something that is soft could be another great venue. So these ones are nice because you can play with your puppy. They can bite and chew on them while you're playing. They're a little bit more durable than like plushie items. This doesn't mean that you can't use plushies as well. But if your puppy is breaking them or trying to ingest them, I would recommend plushies supervised, but also plush toys could be more of an interactive toy. So you're playing together, exchanging one plushie for another and rotating that way. He's like, boy, was I thirsty. That poor little monkey, all those snackers. So, but we may find something that is soft. And so his baby teeth are still in there right now. But as they start to grow and then they start to fall out, he's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable again. And then puppies do go through that second teething phase where their big incisors start to poke through around like 9 months or so. So we may have another moment where teething becomes all over again very rowdy. But remember, a lot of that mouthiness is something that we have bred into puppies because we want them to stay puppy-like into adulthood. So a lot of the behaviors that we maybe don't love, oh, watch out, he's like, I tripped on my own foot. So you want to make sure that the puppy behaviors that we've technically created have outlets that we've deemed are beneficial or safe for him to do so. What a good job. So now that he had a nice little drink, we'll try for a little sit, do another little wait, give him a couple little seconds, and then Teddy come. What a good job. He's being very nice and soft with how he's taking his snacks right now, which is gorgeous. He says, lady, I'm exhausted. You're such a good boy. You're doing a very nice job. So, but if you're getting a lot of bombardment of the little humans, because I know you have a little one around 5 or 6 months, little human child, and then people are like, are you talking about dogs or people? It's always very confusing. And then you have another little older one as well. So I would highly recommend when you have puppies or even teenage dogs to adult dogs is you do want to create safe bubbles for one versus the other. And when they're going to be together, it has to be supervised and also active watching. There's a lot of littles that do not know how to engage with a puppy in general, and people think that they're going to grow up together and do well. But remember that around, again, 77% of dog bites happen in and around the home with friends and family. And about 50% of that is to little ones under 5 in the face. So a lot of prevention and management can help big time for avoiding potential heartache for everybody by making sure that the capabilities of a small human or even an adult with the pup is, again, at a good playing field. So just because the baby or the small human wants to engage with the dog doesn't mean the dog always wants to be engaged with. So we do want to make sure that there's consent from both ends and that both are being set up for good interactions. So typically I recommend, I'm just going to grab the cot for Mr. Handsome over here, but I do recommend for dogs and small littles to have their 2 own zones so everybody can be set up for greater success. So we're going to try a little bit with this handsome guy, maybe working a little bit with his down. He's like, my brain's nice. So close. There we go. Yes, smart boy. So we'll try a little bit with our bed behavior, just building it up again for the handsome man. He's like, oh, winded. He's doing a very good job. But too, I know you mentioned like his tummy's been a little bit off. There can be lots of facets that go into tummy upset. I know we've already checked him for parasites because they're not allowed to come to classes unless they've been pre-screened. So he's been in the clear. But sometimes they could be on certain medications for flea and tick or heartworm medication or whatever, and that can upset some of their tummies. Vaccines can throw off their tummies as well. Obviously, if the puppies have eaten something a little bit funky from outside to inside, we do want to be careful though, if you were ever seeing that he was being lethargic or acting differently, always check with your vet. But sometimes an obstruction typically ends up being low. They're either throwing up or not passing items, and then they're also then typically not drinking or eating. So I always like to rule out medical reasons behind tummy trouble changes versus just guessing. I know I mentioned the probiotic, which could be a great option if it's because of things he's been getting in the sense of wormers or preventatives. There are some puppies that just have more sensitive tummies, and sometimes finding an appropriate food can be helpful. But then also probiotic and enzymes can also be just a great additive to make sure your puppy is digesting things and absorbing things well. So right now, as we're blabbing, he's working a little bit with his place behavior, getting cozy on that cot, which I know he's going to eventually outgrow this one, but we do have another bigger one if need be. Ready? Down. So if he works a little bit and gets a little bit wiggly, I'm just going to re-ask him for the down position and help him get there. He's doing a real nice job, but it can also be stress, like what you mentioned. So if your puppy has been noticing, like when you guys go away, he has a little bit of a harder time, don't forget to check out some of the separation training or practice to avoid separation anxiety and some of those videos that I had sent along in one of the Word documents. There will be a slew of really helpful visuals and tidbits in those documents. Nice. So right here, we're just working a bit with this, again, beautiful stay or the beginning stages of the stay position on his cot. He's doing a very nice job. So let's say maybe on this next rep, I want to end it. I'm going to go back to this gorgeous guy, feed him a little bit for being in his beautiful down sort of position on this bed. And then I'm going to go ahead and release the handsome guy. So I might say, all done, and get him up and wiggling. He's like, are you sure? Ready? He's like, I guess so. So we'll see if we can get him on up. Good job. Once your puppy is up, and let's say he's been he's like, no, I'm going back. There's a crumb. So if he's been loving going to the target, because we've been kind of practicing this with all of the men, because having a nice association with going and settling is a really great behavior, especially going into teenagehood, where most puppies have a really hard time simmering down. So we're going to do a little sit. We're going to tell him to stay. I'm going to see if I can do a sit stay with him for a few little reps. So again, we'll feed for that. Of course, all the beauties are like, we'd like to rotate again and do some more wrestles. Nice. I'm going to feed. He's doing a really good job. He's like, my friends. So if you're starting, excuse me, to build up some of these practice moments, make sure you're going at a rate where your puppy is being successful. If he's getting nice and relaxed, you can definitely capture more of this sort of softness or vegging that he's giving you, which is really, really pretty. So right here, we're just feeding for that. He's doing a great job. Very pretty. I know he's getting so sleepy, so tired these boys get. But they really do a nice job. So they do some really nice playing together. And I know that typically they have like BFFs, but they do rotate through each other, which is nice. So like, for example, Mr. T over here really likes Mr. Bodie. But they enjoy playing together. And then of course, Bernie and Mr. Sterling enjoy playing together, but then they'll rotate. So like Sterling was playing with Mr. T today. It was adorable. And then again, Bernie was playing with Bodie again. So they're doing a nice job rotating. This is really pretty. Sterling says, but I'm really lonely without getting to wrestle. Nice. Very pretty. I love how he puts his little face on his little legs and he relaxes. So if let's say my puppy's doing quite well with a certain skill, I might start to not make it too challenging, but I want to try a little bit with novelty and moving around and making some noises and moving some stuff around for distraction's sake. Nice, that was really pretty. So if he gets up, I'm just going to relower him to the down and feed while he's still in the down position. And remember, even if your puppy were to get up and wiggle, it could be their only way to say, hey, I don't get it, or I'm really tired, or I need a break, or I'm confused. So remember that disobedience is not like your dog trying to be like, hey, I don't care about what you're trying to teach me. A lot of times it has very little value, these weird things we're working on. So again, I know I've discussed it prior, is think about everything that you're working on with your babe as having like a bank account. And how many deposits have you actually put into that account to make the pup find value in that thing? So that is something to think about for when trying to make behavior resilient and reliable for down the road. Because if your babe barely finds value in the thing on its own, let alone when distractions are happening, that'll be much more challenging to ask for it in the real world setting. He's doing a real nice job. So again, we're just going to feed again over the bed. So he's kind of getting the snacks from the bed itself. And then once he's all done gobbling those up, we're going to give him a little breather. So I'm going to go over to the handsome guy. I might say all done or finished, and then get him up and wiggling. He's like, oh, goodness me. 2, if your babes are doing a great job with their target spot, make sure that you do give them little breaks where they get up and move again, because if they're stuck on the mat the whole time, they might start to get more uncomfortable. Not in the sense of discomfort from laying down, but more so like puppies. They're almost like sharks. If they're not moving, they might be suffocating in the ocean. So sometimes getting them up and do a couple little find its. Of course, he missed that one, but maybe I'll grab my drink real quick. So my throat is a little bit dry. Oh, he found the find it. Good job. Sorry about the water break. All right. But maybe what we'll do is we'll give Mr. Handsome, he's like, let's do it again. Look at you being so smart. So, but maybe what we'll do is we'll do maybe one more little rep, and then we'll give him a break from this lovely place behavior. Ready, down. What a smart boy. I'm going to feed for that. So now I'm going to tell him to stay. We may try a little bit with the stationary position. And this way you can see him a little bit better. He's looking more towards the camera than towards the wall with the leashes. Nice. But I want to try also after this one is a little bit with his harness and his leash and working a little bit with the gear on as well. Yes, nice job. He's doing a really good job. And not too drooly for, you know, a St. Bernard mix. So he's not doing too shabby. Nice. What a smart boy. So maybe we'll go ahead, we'll give him one more little rep, and then we'll give him a little breather. So there we go. We'll feed for this beautiful down stay for now. And then once he's all done gobbling up his snacks, I'm going to tell him he's going to be all done. So all done. And then we might get Mr. Handsome up. Ready? He's like, I really like being on my bed. What a good job, sir. So we'll give Mr. Handsome Pants a little breather from some of these skills, and then we'll work a few others. Ready? We might sneak out for a little potty and then do a little bit more with some other skill sets. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'll move this out of range. We'll work on it a little bit later, and we'll give him a little break from this behavior and practice.